What's up, guys? Chris Brown, otherwise known as Chain Stasis Wellness, coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I want to talk to you guys about some nutrition. Specifically, I want to talk about oxalates. Okay, so what are oxalates and why do they matter? Well, oxalates are a naturally occurring compound in plants that are used to bind calcium for these plants. In humans, oxalates are just a waste product filtered through the kidney and come out of your body as urine. Most will call oxalates a anti-nutrient as it blocks the absorption of certain minerals. Specifically, we're really going to focus on calcium. It's also known as oxalic acid, which is a poisonous strong acid, and it occurs naturally in a lot of plants, specifically the dark leafy green ones like spinach, right? It can be used as a bleaching agent or cleaning agent as a chemical intermediate. Now, they're probably going to make that stronger for cleaning, so don't think that they're the same exact thing. We already have naturally occurring acids in our body, like hydrochloric acid. So it's not like you're drinking acid, okay? So don't take it that way, all right? Where do oxalates come from? Oxalates come from nuts, seeds, dark leafy greens, basically a lot of different types of things that grow from the ground, okay? A lot of plants, and nuts and seeds, et cetera, et cetera. Notable sources for drinks, coffee. The data seems mixed on coffee. Some studies will say it's real high. Some studies will say it's low. Some studies say in between. But generally, most studies are showing, it has some decent amount of it. If you're drinking a lot of coffee, you're getting a lot of oxalates. Beer can go either way, but generally seems like it's pretty low. White wine's pretty high. Wines made from grapes kind of makes sense. Grapes grow from the earth. All right, they're acidic. All right, black tea, not necessarily green tea or white tea. Right, black tea has a decent amount. Soda has some amount of it. As far as whole foods, you're going to see it in beans. You're going to see it in nuts and seeds. It's pretty high in beets. You're going to see it pretty high in dark leafy greens. And soy, I talk about soy a lot. Don't really love it. Soy seems to be fairly high in oxalates. That being said, fermented soy or fermented anything tends to be lower in a lot of things we don't want to get in our bodies. Another thing you might see, things high in vitamin C. Specifically, some oranges seem to be pretty high in oxalates as well. Now, why do you care? Why do oxalates matter to you? Well, oxalates bind calciums, like I said, along with some other minerals. Phytates come along with oxalates. I'm not going to talk too much about those in this video, but they're another chemical found in many of the same foods, and these can lower the absorption of iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium as well, or they can lower the absorption at least. Oxalates are related to a lot of issues that humans have that we deal with on a daily basis, from fibromyalgia to autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and even lupus. Most people get about 100 to 300 milligrams of this a day, but the studies, these kind of studies are always epidemiological. They're not perfect. Sometimes they use a summary. Who knows? So somewhere around that. Generally, the body can get rid of that just fine through the urine and the kidneys. But if you get too much of this, you can have kidney stones, which is one of the biggest renal problems or kidney problems people deal with, especially once they hit a certain age. I think around 50 is where most people start dealing with that the most. In the 24-hour urinary samples, oxalate will increase around 1.7 milligrams for every 100 milligrams of dietary oxalates ingested. So you can eat too much food that has an oxalate content in it and make the chance of getting this oxalate excretion to be really high, and causing kidney stone formation among other problems. Okay, you might hear of the nephrons in the kidneys. They don't do too well with it. Without getting deep into the physiology, a lot of oxalates and the kidneys don't mix well, right? So why are these problems such as kidney stones and other inflammatory problems happening so much? Why are people getting too much oxalates? Well, one postulation is that a lot of foods that are high in oxalates are seasonal. They're not grown all year round naturally. And due to modern technology, people can eat any type of food year round. So that just means people who like beets, for instance, they might eat beets every day, all day, right? Spinach, people are eating lots of salads, especially raw spinach, every day. Now, if you're growing that in your backyard, especially New England, it's not going to happen, right? So those people from before the times where food was available at all times everywhere, they probably were never having a problem with oxalates and kidney stones. So if you do go back and do some research, people weren't getting kidney stones nearly as much back in the day, right? Also, some of these foods, if they come in soil that's very high in calcium, they're going to be even higher in oxalates, because in plants that the oxalate content is used specifically to bind that calcium, so you're going to need more of it to get rid of the calcium in the soil, which for plants is great, right? Also, the prevalence of veganism and vegetarianism seems to be massively on the rise, especially in the last 20 years or so. It's not perfectly, we can't perfectly nail down the numbers on how many people are going vegan or vegetarian, but one survey I read showed a 300% increase in veganism in the US from 2004 to 2019. And in the UK, it rose 360% in the last decade. That's pretty significant. Juice diets and juice cleanses, yeah, I said that with a sneer. They're also on the rise. And like we know with sugar, if you juice something, you're going to drink a lot more calories or a lot more of what's inside that fruit than if you were just to eat whole oranges or whole beets or whatever, right? You're juicing it, you're getting a lot of the extra stuff. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes we want what's in it, but sometimes it can be bad too. Are there genetic predispositions to this? Or what are the risk factors of this, right? Well, some people are more prone to kidney stones. They likely have more trouble absorbing other nutrients in your gut as well. If you have gut problems, you probably have other associated problems. Interestingly, the gut is strongly associated with the brain. There's a lot of pain passing through here, but also some good signals as well. All right. If one or more of your parents has an issue with their GI system or with their kidneys, or with kidney stones in general, it's worth looking into, especially if you're a woman. Unfortunately for the ladies, testosterone seems to be fairly protective of this. So if you're a woman, you might want to get it looked into if you're having some issues in that area. What's called Hyperoxaluria, all right, is the problem you get when you get too much of these oxalates, right? Now, there are a couple different types of this, kind of like type 2 and type 1 diabetes. Type 1 is extremely rare. It means you have it from the start, genetic disorder. It's 3 in a million. You're probably not dealing with this. And there's a couple different subsets of that, but we're not going to talk about that. It's over my pay grade, right? Type 2 is what people will get when they just have too much of it in general, and maybe their diet is screwed up and their GI system screwed up for long term, right? So they just have hyper, means too much, right? So if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, you are at increased risk of this happening eventually, which means increased risk of kidney stones as well. In America, it seems at least more women are choosing this over men. So that may be a reason why women are having more kidney stone issues. I'm not sure on that. If you are or have been taking a lot of antibiotics, this can worsen the effect. If your gut isn't doing well and its bacteria is lessened, which we need, you're going to not absorb things properly. So if you're not absorbing calcium properly, you're going to have an issue with oxalates, right? Vitamin C. Generally, people think this is pretty good, but you can have too much. There is a toxicity to this. Over a gram or 1,000 milligrams a day can exacerbate this. Going along with the oxalates already in some oranges, they're also high in vitamin C. That doesn't pair well for this. Low calcium intake, like I said, that can also increase your risk. Honestly, people who have low calcium intake are probably low in protein. We can make those connections, but I'm not going to. All right, that could be the case. They're not having a good diet in general if they're low in calcium. All right. So if you're having these problems, what can you do? Well, it has been shown that 24-hour fasts, you can be asleep for part of that 24 hours. 24-hour food fast can give the gut actually some time to fully heal. The gut does not heal if it's being fed food and having to work. It makes sense, right? If you have an injury and you try to work out through it, it's not going to heal, right? Same thing with the gut. Also, eating more different protein sources, animals and animal products, and less of the aforementioned foods. Soy seems to be a repeat offender on many fronts for a lot of things. That's going to at least deload the amount of oxalates you're getting, all right? Try to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. Not all of them are high. Try to eat them seasonally. That's probably a good idea. We had less of these problems before when we only ate seasonally. Now, cooking food. So even if you're not going to do that, cooking food can lower the content almost by half of certain food because the oxalates get leached out into the water, and you're probably not drinking the water. That'd be weird. You're just tossing it out. All right. Another thing, get enough calcium. Eat it through your food. Eat it through your food, please. Those pills are not going to be absorbed properly. Eat it through your food. All right. Drink enough water. If you're not drinking enough water, a lot of things go wrong. This is one of them. And don't go nuts on your coffee, your black teas, your sodas, and your alcohol. That seems pretty obvious for health in general. And also, a lot of those things can probably exacerbate gastritis and other GI issues, anyways. So, probably should stay off of those things if you're having GI issues and renal issues, anyways. So, makes sense. So what's the takeaway on oxalates? Well, most people really don't need to worry about this on a daily basis. Provided your pancreas is working well and your kidneys are pretty good, they're going to be filtering out those oxalates pretty fine, right? It's going to go out through your urine, no big deal. But don't eat an imbalanced diet. Eat your proteins, eat a variety of proteins, eat fruits and vegetables, but don't go nuts on any one thing, especially raw ones, right? If you're having warning signs, listen to them. GI issues, urinary issues, kidney stones, calcium deficiencies, other inflammatory issues, like any of the ones I listed above, anything, rheumatoid, lupus, anything, GI, IBS, you should definitely limit these foods. But as usual, speak to your doctor and maybe also supplement that with a nutritionist, right? All right, guys. So that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you learned a little bit about oxalates. Maybe you can do a little bit of reading on your own. I'm going to post some of the journals and articles I read to get my research done. There's one specific one I really loved from the traditional NCBI, but there's a lot of good resources out there. Just make sure you get some credible ones. All right, guys. Thank you very much. As usual, be well. Thank you.